Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very senior and accomplished author, a respected best-selling author from New York, USA, Dr. Lintao Lu. Dr. Lu, or LT, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ash. Thank
Thank
you for inviting me to the show.
Thank you. LT is the author of a book titled In Through the Window, and we're going to be talking today about his book. But LT, before we come to your book, a few questions for you. You were born in a mud-walled home in rural China during one of the most turbulent periods in modern history. As you look back, what are some of the defining experiences from your childhood that shaped who you have become?
Well, if you read my book, In Through the Window, you will say it's poverty, because at that time, it's very poor. China is half century ago is completely different world. It's unlike now. It's modernized, particularly in big city, and it's very poor place. However, Ash, I will see not just poverty, but what's really impact me is dignity. I remember vividly that because we're so poor, I did not have any new clothes until I turned 10 years old. And all I wear is the clothes passed down from my old brother. And when I was selected to be a speaker in a big gathering, that's called 10,000 people's meeting. It is quite a common during the Cultural Revolution area. So I was very much honored. But what really I remember vividly was my mother. My mother buy the bullet, bought the clothes, and hand sewed a new shirt for me because she wanted her son to stand on that stage with dignity. And that teaches me a profound lesson, Ash, is poverty is a condition, but dignity is a choice.
Wow, what a great, amazing lesson. Thank you. You've also lived under communism, studied in Europe, and built businesses in America. How did navigating such different political, cultural, and economic systems shape your worldview?
Yeah, that it's hard, and I was pretty much forced into this sense because we're all born into the time. This is something that just happened. Because of that, you have to learn new language, new cultures, force you to do something otherwise you will not even imagine that you will do that or whether it's possible. But after that years, decades, and when you think back, Ash, I really think this is a wonderful experience to me. It's a blessing. And now you see the world, because the world consists of all sorts of different civilizations. Your Western civilization, your Oriental civilization. People look at the things a little bit differently. China taught me perseverance, taught me the unshakable inner strength. And you talk about Europe. Europe taught me philosophy, critical thinking. And then I come to America, I really learned this innovation, entrepreneurship. So all these things, I will see this is not, I'm not pick one over the other. I consider myself as a bridge between China and the US, bridge really between East and West. And so this is all these my war experience made me a bad person, and actually turns out to be my strongest, my biggest strength.
Very interesting. Well said. LT, let's come to your book, In Through the Window. And before I ask you a question, I'm going to ask all my viewers and listeners to go and check out the book In Through the Window, written by Dr. Lintao Lu. My first question for you is, what does the metaphor of going through the window when the door is locked mean to you personally?
Yeah, this book is, you look at this title, it's very symbolic. The symbolism, the door for me as is the conventional path.
Mm,
The door is the straightforward advancement,
mm,
is the fairness, is the expected promotions, recognitions. And in that sense, I, after a long career in the life, I realized that the door actually is not open equally for everyone,
mm,
that someone will get in, welcome in actually, uh,
mm,
with flower and applause.
mm,
Others will have to wait, and yet others, the door is completely closed,
mm,
it's stapled, it's locked. So that's how this war is. And so in that sense, the window is a new path.
mm,
The window is an alternative path. The window is uh, the opportunity and even you see the window actually in essence as the window is a different perspective.
mm,
Uh, the window is give you a fresh new look. You don't have to go in. It's the door is not the only path.
mm,
A closed door does not mean a closed future.
mm,
If you look hard enough in the same wall, if you look, just take your eye off the door, you will see that window there. If you
mm.
really are insistent and looking hard enough, you will find another path forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so ironical. Everyone, certainly in from the eastern part of the world, always says, if one door closes, another one opens. Uh,
Absolutely. Yes.
well said. LT, you write candidly about hunger, poverty, and growing up during the Cultural Revolution. How did these experiences shape your relationship with adversity?
Yes, adversity is something that it will not just happen to LT.
Hmm.
It will happen to everyone. And obviously, I I don't wish the hardship, adversity to anyone else,
Correct.
particularly the hardship I went through. But in hindsight, I think this is really actually a treasure. Actually, some things make me stronger. There's saying, if it will not kill you, it will make you stronger. So that my humble background, the hardship, the hunger, rejections, loneliness, all these failure and the detour in my childhood and then navigating different system, different culture, everything's
Hmm.
uh, actually now I view that as a blessing because that really taught me the lesson of life. That really forced me to look at the unconventional path,
Hmm.
look at deep level, look at humanity,
Hmm.
at like survival, right? That in childhood, if you're born privileged, probably that's even not a question. But you live through that through very survival because you even don't have enough to eat.
Mm.
And so this comes out, obviously, is resilience
Mm.
and make you much more, you have a thick skin. That's how you develop your thick skins.
Correct.
You're now much more resistant to
Absolutely.
the, rejections.
Absolutely. Can you share a moment in your life when every door seemed to be closed and how you found your window?
Yeah, Ash, there are numerous of these examples. I will say the one really make big difference, if I will, is that incident with the
Hmm.
GE appliances in a high incident. I worked with higher longest in my career. I spent 14 years there. And from very bottom as engineer and then marketer and then the CEO of the division of Fortune 500
Hmm.
companies. And I really single-handedly building the air conditioning business from nowhere to be a top three in the industry.
Hmm.
And then when the Haier decided to acquire GE Appliances, by the way, Haier is the biggest brand in the appliance worldwide, bigger than Whirlpool, bigger than GE, if you look at worldwide basis. And so when that acquisition happened, I thought, hi, acquired GE, right? I really contributed so much to that success of High America.
Hmm.
So I will probably deserve to take the operation of merged operation. But guess what, Ash, is I was passed over, and worse than that, I lost my job. I
Hmm.
was let go.
Yeah.
And so this is, and when that happened, I am already 56 years old, no longer young.
Hmm.
So, but guess what? I can treat that as a disaster for my career, or I can treat that as an opportunity for my life.
Hmm.
And so I decided I would do some things different, something I really want to do since my childhood. So I started my own operations, the Navac Inc. Now, 10 years later, Navac is a market leader in HVAC tools in the industrial vacuum.
Interesting. What a great way to pivot and to reinvent yourself. Congratulations. Uh, Moving on, LT, your book talks about the fact that resilience is learned. How can parents and educators help young people develop resilience without having to suffer extreme hardship?
I don't think you need to manufacture the hardship or I don't think the children our children needs to go the hardship we
Mm.
went through and but I do think they need to experience that they need to test it because the things you cannot just teach your next generation through your lectures uh, that even through the stories some of things they have to go through by themselves
Mm.
and being a parent being the educator I think we just have to recognize that sometimes we have to step aside not try to take their right to try and error
Mm.
I use the example that many parents they act like a snowplow. They clean all the barriers, everything's in front of their
Mm.
kids,
Mm.
and they're so protective. But guess what? You spoil your kids because you take all these things away from them, and they don't learn, they don't grow, right? What we really need to do, we need to be a lighthouse. We need to give them a mission, a purpose, and we need to give them freedom. We,
Mm.
we, we need to feel comfortable enough, sit on the sideline and let them struggle. If they have failed to take the homework, don't rush to finish it by yourself.
Mm.
Let them finish it. Let them, even did not finish it, right? Let them to face the consequence. They need to face that rejection. They have to face this closed door.
Mm.
Let them see with involved closed door. Let them think about it.
Yeah.
Let them to find their own way in. So this is I think again is a perspective, is a mindset.
Mm,
We really don't need to do any extraordinary things,
mm.
but do right things in a daily basis.
Very interesting. Tell me, you worked with global companies. What are some misconceptions Western organizations seem to still have about Asian leaders? And I see this all the time in the tech sector, for example.
Absolutely, absolutely. For example, the the leadership in corporate America or
Mm,
in Europe for that sense, they consider if you are quite, excuse me,
mm,
if you are quite, they think you don't have age and you are lack of leadership. However, this is just different
mm,
culture.
mm,
In Oriental culture, particularly in Chinese, I would say we tend to think before speak because people are more like as a part of a collectivity.
mm,
Their conformity, obedience, I'm not saying this is good, but culturally they grow up that way,
mm,
and it has advantage as well because you can use your mind, you tend to be more insightful, and good listener, very good listener, right? This is a active listener, or that this is actually one of important ingredient for the leadership. But
mm.
in the Western world, they think differently. Like there's expression, think out loud. What do you mean think out loud?
Correct.
Because you are talking while you are thinking. But that's how, right? Western world is like that. Like
Yeah.
you, right? In particular in US, very individualistic. I just get these things out. I really, we should not care too much, right? To be ourselves,
Correct.
and also the normally the noises, the who is talking the most, right? That view, he's good, he is a leader, and but that's a misconception. There are many of those
Mm.
things. I just throw out one,
Yeah.
because it is the different does not mean deficient.
Correct.
So this is something that's very important, the understanding, to understand each other. So
Mm.
the understanding is the condition for effective communication.
Very interesting. What did poverty teach you, LT, that prosperity could never?
A number of things. And obviously, Ash, is gratitude
Mm.
that, sorry, yeah, if you are born the privilege, you're not worried about all these necessities, everything. But with my background, we have almost nothing.
Mm.
So everything you have now, you develop a sense of appreciation. You will not take things for granted. And compared to my childhood, all this modern now considered a necessity, everything, I feel very appreciative. I don't take things for granted, but I
Mm.
see the young kid, and because everything's just happened, everything's when they ask everything's so convenient. And now they even don't have to use their mind very much, right? If there's a question, hey, Chat GPT, Gemini, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but so this kind of a scarcity, and I tend to look things at both sides of things, like
Mm.
Chinese philosophy, yin and the yang. Like a coin, you
Yeah.
you always has
Two
two sides of
sides.
the things.
Mm.
Yeah, so that I again, I don't wish my hardship
Yeah.
and this poverty happen to anyone, but that one give me a character, for example, and
Mm.
this is the prosperity
Very
will
interesting.
never give to you.
Very interesting. Your book blends Chinese wisdom with modern business thinking, which one of the ancient lessons remains most relevant for leaders today?
As I will quote Chinese, 穷则变，变则通，通则久。
Mhm.
This is from the I Ching. That's the Bible of Chinese philosophy.
Mm.
Thousand years ago, they
Yeah.
wrote that. It means that when you reach end of the road, when you exhaust every possible way, then the change become necessary.
Mm.
With change comes possibility,
Right.
comes the path, and that will lead you to somewhere
Mm.
that you do. So this is, I will say, as this is probably the oldest philosophy of innovation.
Mm.
So there are a lot treasures, a lot humanity,
Mm.
some universal things. This is some very basic things like love, compassion, imagination, uh, that happened years, they carry on with humanity for generations and
Mm.
generations. There
Mm.
are certain things just will not change.
Mm.
That is something's anchor
Yeah.
for the humanity.
Amazing. LT, have time for two more questions. The Monkey King appears as an early inspiration in your story. What did the character of the Monkey King symbolize for you? And does he still influence your thinking today?
Yeah, Monkey King was my hero and is still my hero. And for every Chinese boy and every Chinese, their character is they remember the character which is the in the novel Journey to the West. Uh, Monkey King, he is when I was a child is I was so fascinated with his magics.
Mm.
It's like magic, and he's so magical. He can change into 72 different character. He
Mm.
can be a monkey, he can be a snake, he can be a fly,
Yeah.
and he can be, just change it at will. And he's so powerful. He travels thousands of miles by a somersault, by cloud. And so that is what really intrigued me. And, I at the time, I inspired, why not LT? I want to be a monkey
Yeah.
king. Yeah, but nowadays, right, the monkey king is really, to me, is his transformation,
Mm.
is his endless adaptability. Uh, Particularly in my experience, I travel the continent, I working in between the cultures, everything's, I think adaptability and flexibility, agility, if you
Mm.
will, in modern leadership language is the key
Mm.
because this world changing so fast.
Mm.
So like Monkey King, if you see a closed door, what the Monkey King will do? He will not wait. He will not complain. He
Correct.
found a way in. He probably will turn himself into a fly now,
Yeah.
and he will fly into the
Mm.
window.
Mm.
So yeah, that's Monkey King to me.
Very interesting. And my last question for you, LT. Your concluding message is about standing high and looking far. When you look ahead, what gives you the greatest hope for the next generation?
Thanks for the question, Ash. Actually, this book is not LT's story. I wrote this book for next generation. And since I was a young man, I always already tell myself, right, I'm so lucky. I need to do something to deserve that luck.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be an example. I want to set an example for the next generation.
Mm.
And I always believe many worthwhile things is done over generations.
Mm.
So this book, Ash, is really a long family letters to next generation.
Mm.
I want next generation to learn. If I put it in the concluding chapters.
Mhm.
I want them to have a big heart, live a meaningful life, care deeply, love generously. I
Mm.
want them to have a strong will, an unshakable, build unshakable resolve,
Mm.
and stand up again and again. And I want them to have an open mind.
Mm.
Be curious, be strategic, be resourceful, and zoom in and zoom out. See the detail, see the big picture.
Mm.
After all, I want them to be fully human because in the AI age, AI will beat human beings in processing
Mm.
information. But
Mm.
what's really the AI cannot do is compassion, is imagination, is all this curiosity, right? All these human things. And that one really make us human as we are. And I surely hope our next generation not only accomplish wonderful things, but
Mm.
really become themselves, becoming fully human.
Amazing. And on that note, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been with you, LT. You covered a lot of very interesting ground on how you have on your own journey, of course, but you also shared with us some of your deep thoughts on how the wisdom of China you have not only kept within yourself, even though you live in the US, but you have exemplified it through your acts, and you've given us some beautiful examples of how that wisdom has stood by you, whether it's in resilience, whether it's in writing your book, whether it is in your business principles, or whether it is just on passing on so much for the next generation. All the very best for your book. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.